Sounds good.
Jesus loves me, dude.
All right.
So sorry about
After all the
that.
craziness there.
Goodness gracious. Alrighty, so just want to quickly double check, make sure that we got the test going with the restream so we can see people talking in both chats. But for those people that are filtering on in right now or just see the part of this video, welcome. So sorry for the delay on that. Usually we would have everything all set up right before, but we've literally been troubleshooting sound issues for the past 45 minutes. So I do apologize for that profusely. We're at a point now where we basically just can't overtalk each other, else there will be an echo for Northwoods. But when you guys start filtering on in, hopefully you can hear me well. Sadly, since I did waste a lot of time, we won't be able to have that longer conversation. I have about, I want to say about an hour and a half, which will still be plenty of time. But we'll just wait right now for some people to come on in, and then I'll test the... I'll do a little bit of test in the chat, see as people filter in. Awesome. All right, so Edwin and Narwhal, it looks like y'all are talking. For some reason, Twitch is not popping up. Can you hear it here? You want to start talking, Northwoods?
I'd just like to introduce. My name's Andy with Northwoods Collectors, and the thing we're going to talk about is marketing, of course, Q&A and what's going on. There was a little bit of an age difference between Eli and myself. I think we're probably about 10 years difference based on when you started in a Pokemon and when I started in a Pokemon, and just kind of an interesting, different perspective on the market and a lot of similarities to what's happening also. So there's a lot of good discussions that we can have, definitely between the two of us, on what's happening right now and what we can foresee happening here as time moves on a little bit.
Here, Sun wants to win the giveaway. Start moving the mic a little bit away from your mouth. You just got super loud all of a sudden.
Is that better?
Yeah, that does sound better.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just move the mic away from myself a little bit. That way it should be better. Just real quick, how's everybody's audio on their ends? You guys hearing everything okay, or is it pretty clean, or is it loud?
Yeah, guys, on my end, if you can hear Northwoods, let me know, and hopefully the audio on his sounds a lot better.
When Dad is here, rules seem to go away from you. Hmm? No, you're not. You're gonna do it again. This is the first one.
Yeah, it was a bit choppy. I think I got that straightened out there. Be Purple Poker.
Sun says it's pretty good. Sun says it's pretty good.
Okay.
And then Head says it's echoing. That's echoing because
I just want to finish something quick.
it's because of the talking in the background. That's why.
Get it back to that place.
Yeah, I don't. Now all of a sudden your audio is really choppy to me, Pokemart. I don't know.
It's because
why.
it's because the noise in the background probably for you as well as me.
Okay. Apologize, everybody. This has just kind of been an ongoing fight, but we wanted to start moving here because Eli's got to leave here at 2 o'clock. So.
So here's what I did right now. I'm just going to do push to talk, so that way it's going to make it a lot easier instead of me having to click mute and unmute each and every time. But then my boom mic is still... I mean, but that doesn't... Well, actually, does that change the audio? No, because it still picks up you on your end. Oh my goodness gracious, yo. He says the echoing sounds kind of fine. His upload-download might be weak if he's on Wi-Fi. Worth getting jacked into an Ethernet if it's an option, is what Norwal is saying. I think another thing is...
I can't hear Pokemon either.
Well, can you hear me now?
You're like... It sounds like you're at the end of a hallway.
Dude, seriously? What the
And it's still choppy. Yeah, it's like it's real choppy and you're at the end of a hallway. And I can't... I've got it maxed out on my end. I can't go anymore.
What is going on with this audio? I am so sorry, guys. Headphones may help. Baby cakes, we already tried headphones. It just made it worse. Does my audio sound any better whatsoever?
It's just no. It doesn't seem like your audio is coming up at all, and I don't know why.
What the frick? We literally just had this figured out. We just had this fixed.
I know.
And now all of a sudden we're having this issue.
Purple Poker on my end is saying the same thing. It's real choppy. It's really hard to hear.
It's going, so it's literally going through on both ends is what it sounds like. So on your end, I sound really choppy, and then on my end, I mean, you sound fine on my end, actually. That's super weird.
Yeah, it's really bizarre right now what it's doing. I don't know what's...
Do you use mic filters for OBS or whatever you use Pokemon? Discord wouldn't have them for him to do. I mean, I'm using OBS right now. The rough without filters. I do have a filter, yeah. Here I have, well, you can't really see it and it's not far enough to go on screen, but does it sound any better right now?
Yeah, it actually sounds pretty good right there.
Okay, so it's the distance then. All right, well, what is this going to turn to? All right, so then maybe I need to get closer to the mic. Is that the problem?
Yeah, that actually seems to improve it a little bit, so...
Headset, you're clear, Eli. Northwood sounds distorted. Yeah, that's so freaking weird. Everyone sounds... See, that's the thing, is the audio issue. I think the audio issue is just for the people listening, which is awesome. Love to hear. Problem is fixed. Oh, that's good to hear.
Let me do this. Hey guys, anybody on my chat, go kick over to Pokemon's video. I'm going to kill my chat and see if maybe we can just focus on one. And that way, we'll just all be on his. How's that sound?
Gosh dang it, guys. I'm so sorry about this and all the troubleshooting issues. It sounds fine now. Well, who sounds fine? I sound fine or he sounds fine? You sound fine in your stream, Eli. It's Northwood. Okay, so it is on both ends.
Both ways, and I don't know why. That's why I'm just killing mine right now. I'll open up your stream on my computer, and then we'll just go off of yours.
Okay, so Narwhal is saying that I might need a software filter set up on OBS. It'll make it so I use Streamlabs OBS. Do you want to kind of walk through it so we can have it? What's up, John? How we doing, brother? Sorry about that. Yeah, Northwood does not sound great, but at least you can hear him. Yeah, well, actually, wait. Here's the question. How does Northwood sound right now? Start talking. I just muted myself. Let me know how he sounds now.
Hey, can you guys hear me just fine? Does everything sound okay?
Here, just keep talking.
Okay. Yeah, I can keep talking just to verify everything. Like I said, I just shut down my stream and sent everybody over here, so it's going to be a little bit easier. Maybe it's just a data issue between my computer not being capable of doing some things that I think it can, like it should be.
Okay, so they're saying it's better, and that literally just means that it's because my boom mic, when I just have to mute my boom mic, like I said, every single time. So that's literally the issue. So for some reason, okay, everyone says it's much better. All right, so here's what's happening, guys, and we can go through with this. I can fix it. I know the issue, but basically, I just have to mute my mic every single time he talks, because since I'm using my boom mic and I'm listening to him through the audio on the outsource, basically what's happening is you're hearing him through the audio output device on my PC as well as my speakers. So it's coming with a double echo. So what we'll do is I'll just click mute every single time, and then, you know, we hopefully shouldn't over talk each other and have an issue. However, if we do hear issues, like I do hear background noise, then it will pick up on the echo and the background noise sometimes. So maybe what you should do too, Northwoods, is when I'm talking, you should also mute as well. So then we don't get a double echo on both ends.
Yeah, I mean, I always do anyways, because this time of day the kids are awake, so they'll always make noise. So I just shut down when I'm not talking, just to make sure we don't have that crossover.
Okay, awesome. But all right, so now we got everything all figured out. All right, welcome everyone. So sorry about the delay. So sorry about the audio issues. We still got about an hour and 20 to get everything rolling. But for today's live stream, we're going to be doing it a little bit differently, and I'm going to try and keep it like this for every single Thursday to come, try and get a different guest every time. But today's guest is Northwoods TCG. If you don't know who he is, you can go check him out on his YouTube channel. He stopped by the channel a couple of times. Also, for those who do follow Pokenomics, we also were on a live stream literally a couple days ago, so kind of a coincidence that we planned on doing this a couple days later right after that happened. But Northwoods, if you want to kind of introduce yourself and kind of talk to everyone about what your kind of whole thing is about Pokemon.
Right. My name is Andy from Northwoods Collectors. I'm an old school collector. Back in the day, I used to do tournaments when Pokemon first came out. Realistically, I was really in it from 99 all the way until about 2006. And then when I got into college and kind of life expenses and just life in general kind of took me another direction for career, finishing schooling, family, and everything else. And then about 2 years ago, started getting back into the Pokemon scene when my son started getting more interested in it. Started playing Pokemon Go. That was another thing that really kind of drew me into it. My big thing is that I do a little bit of opening. I like to do openings, and we do some here and there. We do enjoy doing that kind of stuff. My son and I do open packs and have fun that way, but the majority of my channel now is shifted pretty much over to just the investment market watch and just what's happening in general in the Pokemon TCG, and some tips and some things that could make you maybe a little bit more successful when it comes to the Pokemon TCG and what you should be looking for, and keeping yourself out of, potential traps and pitfalls when you're actually working in investing into the Pokemon TCG.
Awesome. And so how we're going to be running this live stream, for those people that are wondering, is so we're going to go for about half an hour to 45 minutes of me just generally asking kind of him questions. And if there are any specific questions that I see in the chat that do pertain to Northwood, I will read them off. And then for the last 15 to 30 minutes, we'll kind of just basically go off of what anyone kind of sees within the chat itself. Because I know usually most people do come for the Tuesdays and Thursdays Q&A since I don't have time to read the comments. But since we have Northwoods here, I really want to focus on kind of picking his brain and having him answer most of the questions and really get his perspective on things. Because I think that's always good to open your mind to different ideas and kind of everything that... that people have to offer in regards to alternative perspectives. But one of the first questions I actually want to ask you, and I feel like this is a really good lead off, and this is something that we actually talked about not that long ago, but you had discussed with me basically how the era in which I got into Pokemon, kind of that level X era, was the era in which you left. So my question is, I want to know kind of your in-depth reasoning behind what is it, whether it be the era specifically you didn't like, whether it be because of just the timing of it all, but what kind of caused you to leave the market or the hobby in that era?
Yeah, we did talk about that. For me, it was more of just my life in general. I think, the biggest thing is I was getting out of college. I graduated from college in 2008, and in 2006, as I was incurring rent costs, I needed a new vehicle. At that point, some people might be too young, or the people that are old enough remember, fuel prices started going through the roof. So we really needed to, just like we're seeing now, where we were having to cut bases, especially on a college income when you're only making $250 every 2 weeks. It's a little bit difficult to continue into a hobby that has expense, driving places, and doing that kind of stuff. So 2006, I was still doing Magic up until about 2007. So I did go a little bit further with Magic because I started with Magic and then kind of finished it out with that. And, the biggest thing is that I got to a point where I needed to pay for some expenses, needed to pay for a new car, and it just came down to, I had a friend that was in the Pokemon, he had a Pokemon shop or an LGS at the time. His dad ran it, and literally just went to him and said, hey, I got all this Pokemon stuff, would you be interested in buying it? And he gave me a price, and I took it, and the only thing I really kept out of there was my playing cards and my binders of cards that I had during that time period. And when I stopped, I knew I had to just either A, I was going to have to continue to keep going, or B, it was just going to have to be a stop, or otherwise I was just going to continue to build back up again and spend more money on it. So I made that decision, and like I said, got married, had a career for a while, definitely had kids in between there, and then like now it just got to the point where you get to the age where you got more expendable money to be able to go back after some of the things that you enjoyed back then.
Awesome, awesome. So it sounds like then, for what I'm hearing, is that basically, like you were saying, a lot of expenses kind of started to accrue themselves, and no longer had as much play money. So to kind of follow that up with the next question, and maybe you just answered a part of it, but what kind of got you back into the hobby? Was it a specific set? Was it that you now have more money to spend? And then on top of that as well, what would you say, as far as it goes, whether it was a specific set or not that got you in, what set would you say from Ultra Modern that you really kind of enjoy differently from when you first started collecting before you quit?
It really, what got me back into it was we were going through checkouts back in 2019. He was grabbing cards, and grabbing packs, because of course they had them right by the checkouts. And of course, once you start opening them, it got you more, interested in it more and more. That happened right really before Hidden Fates came out. So Hidden Fates was really the first set, and it just so happened that set is just incredibly fun to open, and the layout and the changes. I mean, when I left, the biggest cards were Shining Pokemon at the time, and then Gold Stars. And you look at the changes that have come in the Pokemon TCG, and I know some old OG people hate the changes, but personally, I think that there were some really good changes done in the actual layouts of the cards, and they became, more appealing to where I wanted to look into them more. It was definitely something that was a lot of fun to see, and it's just cool to see that Pokemon has continued on past all that. You kind of forgot about it, and like I said, 2016 came around, and it wasn't quite right. A lot of the guys my age jumped in 2016 too. And Pokemon Go, I did and still do play Pokemon Go. So that was a lot of fun to actually be able to do that also. So Hidden Fates is really the number one set that brought me back into it. But then on top of it, Cosmic Eclipse following right behind it was a lot of fun with the artwork and the character rares, and everything that they did in Cosmic Eclipse was a huge upsell for me to really just kind of stay in it and continue to move forward.
Right on. Yeah. So it sounds like, that was a set even for myself as well. I've been very vocal about it. Cosmic Eclipse is probably one of my favorite sets. And then, Hidden Fates was also around the same time that I really got back into it after taking a break. So it sounds as if you're just one of those other people as well that kind of just followed the same trend of hopping back in, because, people been saying, like, obviously, the nostalgia kind of was reborn when people were going back into their old collections during the pandemic. But there's an argument to be made that right before that, Hidden Fates just kind of popped off. So that's really cool to hear that that's kind of one of the reasons that got you back in. So a couple other questions I have for you. So the first one is, for those people that haven't really watched your channel before, obviously you kind of gave a little bit of a piece into what you do, but I want to ask kind of what is your kind of main focus, both whether it be as an individual. Obviously, you've talked with me before about how you have distributors. Is your kind of whole goal as a channel, are you trying to advertise your own business? Are you trying to give your kind of own perspective from a marketplace? And how Pokemon is as a hobby is a little bit of A and B, but kind of just give a little bit more in-depthness on kind of how you got started off, recording YouTube videos, what really brought you onto YouTube to begin with, and then how you came across having the opportunity to work with Pokemon distributors.
So there's my basic focus of the channel is on the safe investing in marketing, how to actually look at products and make safe decisions, try and get rid of the myths that people have out there that every product is a great product to invest in, because we hear that from a lot of, especially during the pandemic was what really kicked it off for me, is that you kept hearing people talk about how buy this, buy that, buy Shining Fates at 140, it's going to be no problem. Or, buy Hidden Fates or Vivid Voltage when it was 230 a booster box, and you'd sit there and listen to this and just cringe, because as an aspect, seeing market in general, being experienced in any kind of markets, that's not going to be a realistic position. And the one other thing that really brought me into YouTube, what really started it, is my son was watching like Leonhard and PokeRev and all them guys on YouTube, because I was watching it just to see what was going on, what was in the new sets. They were great ways to good feel for what was inside of a booster box or inside of these sets and the pull rates without actually opening all these packs yourself. He was seeing it, and it just came down to he kept saying, "Wish you could do something like that. Wish you could do something like that." So we started doing it. It was just a way to get into it. But even back then, even when we first started, I mean, I was doing one day where I was kind of telling people, don't get into hype and FOMO. Don't get into just be cautious of these things, because you hear so many people talking about everything going to the moon and how great everything's going to be, and it's just not realistic. Nothing lasts forever, as they market, especially in Pokemon, are a really high market is that it's reciprocating. They always have an up and they always have a down. And especially, it's interesting because Pokemon, to me, people like to compare it to a stock market or bonds and things like that. But realistically, if I look at it, it looks more like a commodity. As the commodity is constantly being replenished, it continually keeps growing. It keeps getting more surplus, means that the prices drop, and as the surplus goes away, the prices go up. So you're always seeing that influx of new and old, and then it switches more to an actual supply and demand market type bond stock at about 2 years, because then it doesn't have that recurring supply coming back to it, and then you have more abilities to sit there and watch that kind of stuff happen. So that was the biggest thing that I wanted people to start realizing, even back in March of last year, that guys, that buying Shining Fates for $140 is just absolutely ridiculous, because they're gonna print this multiple times, and the faster you buy it, the faster that the distributors run out of it, the faster that these places are going to print it again. Pokemon's going to print it again if the distributors are going empty real fast, and that's because that means to them that there's a particular money, or there's a particular set that people are really interested in. And as for being an LGS, I am currently not an LGS. The distributor that I have as a contact is actually the person in college that I met, that was actually his dad owned a Pokemon shop. His dad passed away and he sold the shop, and he started working for a distributor here in the Midwest. So I don't necessarily purchase anything from a distributor, and I don't have, I'm not an LGS or licensed with any of them, but he is willing to give me as much information as he can on stuff, just on a friend by friend basis. Of course, as you know by most of my videos, I can't give you exact timelines on anything, and I don't think any distributor gives you exact timelines until they know exactly when they're doing it. So a lot of times they're in the air. They know it's coming. They know they're got it in stock, but they can't tell you when it's coming out, or they can't tell you when them things are happening. So that's kind of where my information comes from anyways, is from an actual friend that's in the distributors.
That's really cool to hear, though. I mean, obviously, it doesn't sound like you worked specifically directly in that business aspect, but still having those connections is obviously, very helpful and very insightful to kind of give information for people in the market. And yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Shout out to my boy Caleb if he is listening. He's my sales rep. I always talk to him about this information. And, it's the funniest thing, because half the time I will hear information from him directly from the source, and I'll keep you guys updated. But then another half the time, I'll hear the information from other people's distributors before my distributor even knows, and I'll talk to them about it, and I'll be like, Vivid Voltage, for example, he still hasn't heard anything, and then I'll tell him what I heard from other people's distributors, and he's like, it's crazy, man. He's like, I feel like half the time we hear everything from what everyone else says before we even know, because distributors are so ahead of the curve sometimes, or so behind it, depending upon where the source is heard from first through which distributors. So I always find that kind of fascinating. But I guess leading into that, my next question is, so obviously you're saying you currently do not have a distributor. Do you have any kind of intentions long-term to open an LGS? Is that something you're passionate about? Or are you really just kind of doing this right now as just a hobby? Obviously, you've talked about before you did like opening product for content. That is something, of course, if you do continue to do that. I guess my question really is, what is your kind of sense of direction that you're looking for, both whether it be as a channel or just long-term vision for what you'd like to do in the Pokemon hobby going forward?
The biggest long-term goal that I have right now is just creating an LGS or something like that. I know it's been something that I've looked to take on that kind of responsibility. I currently run and co-owner of an HVAC business up here in northern Wisconsin. So that's kind of a full-time gig. And then we do the farming on the side. So that's another pretty much 2 full-time gigs. And to take on another LGS style form of things is probably not going to be realistic anytime in the near future. The YouTube stuff, of course, I don't sleep much at night anyway. So it's good for me to just be able to sit there and do that. You know, it gets me out in the community and gets to talk to people, definitely get new information from new people. And that's kind of just been my goal of the channel right now, is just to continue to just bring good, solid, analytical information that people can use to make good decisions and actually continue to make those jumps or leaps that they need to do that's actually informed versus just, you know, go buy this because it's going to the moon. I'd rather you learn why to buy something or see the reasonings on buying it than me just telling you go buy this because it's going to be a fantastic buy. And if you don't see it, it doesn't make a difference how much you buy or where you buy it from. You just need to understand. Some people that are in this and are going to stay in it need to understand the reasonings behind it more than the products, because the products always change. If you ask me in a month what products are top products, they're going to be completely different than a month or two before it. It's just everything's always shifting. And so even seeing a video on the backside, it's just not necessarily going to be the same this month as it was last month.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I mean, I don't know how many times I've made videos where I'm like, here's my top picks now, here's my top picks now, and here's my top picks now, because it's literally always changing. I mean, literally one of my most popular video actually was me telling my top 10 picks, you know, coming into 2022. But it's one of those things where it's already changed, because, you know, when I give people that general advice on like, hey, here's my top picks, it's always with an asterisk of what the current price point you can get in at. You know, it's like my favorite pick during the time was, you know, Evolving Skies booster boxes, because you could get them at the time for $100. You know, you could get Brilliant Stars booster boxes for as low as 110, and I think if it is confirmed we'll get that reprint and it does go to 100 or below 100, then that'll be a great pickup too. But obviously once you start to say Evolving Skies is at 150, 160, then it just completely changes kind of the outlook I have personally on it. And so yeah, I think that's a great point, because it's ever changing, and obviously with the ETB reprints and so on and so forth, you never really know which is going to be the best product to get into until you see that opportunity presents itself. So my next question for you is obviously, for those people that know my channel, I'm also very much analytically based. To just point some resources that I like to use, I use Pokedata.io, I use PokeMarketCap, I use TCG player graphs, and then of course Google Trends is the best way I kind of take a look at just general demand in the Pokemon market. So my question for you is, obviously you said you're a channel that's also based in trying to give factual and analytical data in allowing people to make predictions on the market on what could be a good investment long term. If you want to start just kind of giving people some places that you like to, you know, cite your sources and specifically why, or if they are some of the ones that I use as well, then you can just throw those names out and just kind of break down what your kind of favorite way is in order to give your information so that people can really feel the credibility coming from the arguments you're making in regards to Pokemon investing.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the sources you use are exactly the same ones I use. Pokedata.io. I used to use eBay, but when Pokedata.io came out, it made it very, very streamlined versus. And the nice thing is that if you use eBay, it's only a 3-month window. After 3 months, the data starts to disappear. But if you go to Pokedata.io, they have retained that data for eBay sales. So realistically, by using that, they actually give you that pattern on eBay. The next one I like to use is PokePrice quite a bit. I do use PokePrice, especially for like really long history data. PokePrice has been around for quite a few years now. So they've even got stuff back even when I started. That was kind of the first source that I really started to use for my data, was definitely using that site for that information, because I think they started maybe the end of XY era. I'm trying to remember for sure. They're a little bit older though, so they've got some really good history. And I saw a comment on here where people were asking to see how they trended back in the past, and definitely that was a good source for it. If you want to know how it did prior to this boom in 2020, you know, PokePrice is a great source to go back and see that kind of data. One that I do use, TCG Player, of course, you see even on my videos, I use their graphing because their graphing is very clean and very neat. So it really gives really good perspective for when you're trying to visually show something that this is what's happening. This is the curve, the nice clean curve line. It's not like even Pokedata where it's really jumpy depending on the day and the sales. TCG player does a nice job of really averaging it out for the day and giving you them price points for the market value. So, and that's, them are really the biggest sources. And then of course, just people like yourself. I mean, I ask you sometimes some questions on what you're hearing. I go through, I still use PokeNav every once in a while. I talk to him, usually once a month or so, and just kind of pick his brain on what's happening or what he's seeing, being that he's another with PokeRealm, has that kind of inside source. And then, the other sources around that I talk to, like the LGS owners and things like that. So,
Well, right on with that. So I feel like then the next question really is going to lead into probably one that everyone loves to hear, and I would be without remorse if I might as well not ask you the question right now. But what would you say? And you can give it to me in however, what, actually, here's how we're going to ask this question. If you were to say right now, in the current pricing that we see, and this will be a two-part question, with the current pricing that we see, what would you say probably your top, and you can say specific items, you could say specific product, what would be your kind of top picks at current prices? And then if you were to see any reprints happen with certain products, let's say Evolving Skies, let's say Brilliant Star, what kind of prices for any of potentially products that could get reprinted Vivid Voltage would you want to get in at if it was an item you're interested in? But basically just kind of a little bit of a two-part question. What are you interested in getting in right now? And if price has gone down for certain products, would you ever consider getting in them if you do believe in them as a long-term item to invest in?
Currently, the big items that I'm looking at right now, of course, are the Darkness Ablaze and when Vivid Voltage ETBs. Them are kind of the ones I've been scoping out. If you can get them at MSRP, I still think that there's some good potential on those. There's a lot of hype behind, especially that Vivid Voltage set. The other one that I've been really still eyeing up quite a bit, I know a lot of people haven't been, and have been watching Battle Styles still. Everybody's shifted the Chilling Rain really heavy, so Chilling Rain naturally is starting to gravitate up. And my issue is that if Chilling Rain starts to surpass that $100 mark, is it going to be a good investment at that point? And if that happens, would Battle Styles maybe be your next one at the price point? It could be a decent pickup still, considering they're still sitting around that $80 to $82. Sets that I would definitely pick up if they go through a reprint here again would be Evolving Skies. Currently in the process of selling Evolving Skies. We had some booster box that we picked up on the last reprint, and we're currently selling out of them. But if they did go back through a reprint again, I would definitely purchase it back again, because that set has got so much hype and FOMO and people wanting them cards in there. The evolutions itself are really a driving factor on top of that. So I do definitely see some, and after a reprint, it's going to have a great potential to go right back up again, especially as that set slowly kind of goes out of print here in not this year, but the following year or after the following Worlds. So we're definitely still going to have at least a couple more reprints of Evolving Skies, I'm thinking. So at this point, it's not a big rush, and I would like to see that come down around that $100 mark again in order to jump in on it. Then I think after the next reprint, we'll probably see that again, just like we did the first reprint or the reprint back in December. And the other thing that I'm really watching is celebration stuff. There's definitely some celebration stuffs right now that's really starting to pop, because the fact that they're not going to have reprints. My friend is the distributor is kind of saying that they're expecting an ETB reprint here probably soon, because they are running out of Celebrations products again. And his reasoning being is that Celebrations was guaranteed by the printer and by Pokemon that the first year they would be able to get whatever they needed to supply their demand. So he doesn't think we're going to be seeing any of the small products like the Pikachu V-Union, like with the playmat. The UPCs are probably gone. Of course, the Pokemon Center exclusive ETBs, them really shot up the second that they went off the site, because I think they're running 110 right now for that ETB. So there's been some really big accelerations in some of those. So definitely been watching to see if you can get like that Pokemon Center exclusive Celebrations ETB. would be definitely something if you get that around that $80 mark. I've actually sniped a couple of them the other day at about 82. So definitely some opportunities out there that people haven't quite got their pricing right to pick them up. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. It's definitely those kind of items in the market right now for modern stuff. Long-term hold stuff. Been digging through Sun and Moon because there's some good opportunities for long-term hold stuff in the Sun and Moon era right now, especially around that tag team and team up. Even Unified Minds, I'm starting to like a little bit. We're seeing some growth on that one, and the early stages are going up on that. So definitely some opportunity there.
So in regards to kind of like the Sun and Moon era, when you're talking about tag team as well as Unified Minds, I guess my first question for that would be, are you looking specifically into, the booster boxes, the elite trainer boxes, individual sealed packs, cards? What specifically are you kind of targeting when you are looking to invest in those? I don't know if high-end's the right word, but more expensive in kind of the grand scheme of things when you're comparing it to ultra modern Sword and Shield era product.
A lot of the stuff that I'm looking at in the Sun and Moon era right now are the booster boxes, of course. TBs, those are two real big products that I'm really focusing on and trying to get the best deals I can on those. Once again, I always feel that booster boxes are almost a necessity for an investment because they are really stable. I know ETBs tend to do a little bit better, but they can also be a little bit more fluctuant. And if you run into a situation where you need to sell packs or you're looking for chase cards, your options are really limited for the amount of packs inside of an ETB versus a booster box. Second of all, if you go packs per space, I can fit a heck of a lot more booster boxes in a small space than ETBs and the amount of packs in that space. So those are really the products though that I'm looking at. But that's just typically me. I tend to try and stick with the bread and butter type investment products versus, because I've looked at tins. You can look at some of the, I got one of the tins right above me over here, the Pikachu Zekrom box from Team Up sitting up there. And I don't know, they just don't seem to appreciate or gain as fast. And granted, if you were to wait maybe another 5-10 years, they might start to go up at that point. But still, for long-term hold, I'd rather see gains slowly and consistently rather than hope that a product hits and starts taking off eventually.
Yeah, no, I feel like that's definitely a fair statement because although you have a lot of upside return, and although, of course, if you do get in a lot of these newer ETBs or booster boxes at a really nice price, you're still sitting on it for, several years depending upon when the rotation point of it is. And so being able to already accrue gains on an item that's out of rotation, even though it's going to hold a nicer premium, and who knows, maybe initially it might not, gain as much, percentage wise, you're still going to be accruing at a lot faster of a rate within the first couple of years since it is out of that print. So it's always good to be diversified and owning some of that older product, especially if it is so high demand. So one of the questions I also wanted to lead into as well, when asking about your general just kind of strategies, we can talk about midterm, we can talk about long term, but two of the items that you had mentioned that you really do enjoy for potential investments was, you said you've been looking at Chilling Grains, ETBs. It's funny you said that, actually. I was looking at that the other day and also noticed that. And then you also said Battle Styles as well. So considering the fact that both of these sets are obviously part of the E-rotational wave, which means they're still within that sector of potentially, of course, hypothetically speaking, they're always open to reprints until 2023 Worlds. My question is for you, are you looking at more of, okay, Battle Styles is a lot cheaper right now. I can, buy in Battle Styles, wait for a reprint, sell, and then reload on the next reprint? Or are you looking at more of a long-term hold and just kind of put it away and not really into playing the waves? Or what's kind of your general strategy when looking at sets that are in rotation versus out of rotation on just when you like to offload your product?
So you're right on. The reason I'm looking at like Battle Styles and even Fusion Strike right now is getting there. Chilling Reign, Fusion Strike are about the same price. I like Chilling Reign better than Fusion Strike if I'm going to pay the price. I think there's some good opportunities in there. Battle Styles is good because of the price point. The low price point, at that price, if I were to put it away and forget about it for 5 years, it's not long-term hold on that. It's not going to hurt my feelings. There's not like you need to be rushing to try and flip that kind of cost inside of one of them boxes. Um, while I still think that we're going to be seeing at least. Well, we know we're going to probably see at least one more or two more reprints of Fusion Strike coming here. It theoretically, I mean, considering it's on the E rotation and doesn't go until 2023, I think we'll see at least one more. I mean, I'm thinking even a lot of these sets, we're still going to see at least one more. Like Vivid Voltage, Darkness Ablaze, and those are starting to go out. So those are sets that I'm actually kind of been watching too to see their progression. Just because I don't think we're going to be seeing another reprint because those go out here in this world's. Yeah, I think we've just gotten these ETBs. I think we're going to be really the last reprints that we're going to be seeing from these. But yeah, I mean, I think that if you were to look at battle styles or you look at Chilling Reign, even Chilling Reign to me right now is still going to be a long-term hold. I don't think we're going to be seeing a huge movement in any of these sets here in the near future, at least until they go out of rotation and out of print. And then once they do, we might be seeing some people looking for that gold Snorlax or the Galarian Birds. I see the alternate art Galarian Birds are starting to make a move up the actual singles all of a sudden, which is kind of interesting that they've actually starting to surpass that gold Snorlax actually on the TCG player list. So we're actually seeing some movement in Chilling Reign, but I think that's happening too because so many channels are talking about Chilling Reign as a forgotten set, which is where sometimes it's nice on YouTube if you have enough influencers and people continue to say something, you can sometimes influence the market to do something that it wouldn't have naturally done. But on the other hand, is that it kind of sucks because sometimes that can cause some false readings on the market to make you think something's happening, but you really got to watch. That's why I'm kind of backing away a little bit from Chilling Reign, is because now so many people are talking about it. It's starting to move kind of weird. It's not really running the way that it had been or the normal course of it for the last 6 months. It's starting to move differently. And that's why battle styles, price point's great. Fusion Strike is another one. Not too many people are really talking about it. So definitely possibly some good opportunities there too for long 5 to 7 year holds on those.
Yeah, so speaking of Fusion, I'd love to hear your kind of opinion on that in regards to a statement I'm about to make. One of my things that I've really talked about a lot on the channel is I feel like Fusion Strike is a very underrated set because it's kind of a victim of its time. Obviously, you had Evolving Skies come out near the end of August, and then shortly after, literally like a month and a half later, a month and a couple weeks later, you had, of course, Celebrations come out, and then finally you had Fusion come out right after you had two massive sets that a lot of people were dropping a ton of money on. And then all of a sudden, a month later, you already have numbers up for what the allocations were going to be for distributors to start shipping out Brilliant Star. And so I feel as if, in and of itself, it has, some of these old cards that people typically tend to enjoy. And by old cards, I mean old characters. You've got Mew, obviously. You've got Espeon in it. You also have Gengar in it as well. So I think of the kind of lineup of the three that we obviously are talking about right now, Battle Styles, Chilling Reign, Fusion. Personally speaking, I think it'll probably perform the best just based off of, people just got absolutely burned out of buying a ton of Pokemon product because it was back-to-back months of just getting sets and then following up with, hey, we got this new amazing set, time to save up money, and just passing on Fusion. That was kind of the sentiment I got. And then the next thing as well, when talking about kind of reprints, for those people that do play the competitive TCG game, the decks for Mew as well as the Genesect have been absolutely dominant within the competitive play format. So I wouldn't be surprised if you did see eventually within the next 6 months or so the price of the booster boxes rise a little bit because of the cards competitive viability in it, and then eventually you could see a reprint happen. But I just kind of want to get your thoughts on everything that I just kind of stated with Fusion Strike.
The one thing is that from what I've seen throughout the years, the one thing that Fusion Strike is really missing that I don't like about the set. I like Gengar. I like Mew. I think that they have some decent characters inside of there, but they really didn't have an OG anchor Pokemon inside of that set. You look at Brilliant Stars, you have, of course, Charizard holding that one down with Arceus in it. You go to, Evolving Skies, you got all the evolutions, you got Dragonite, you've got all those anchors in it. You go through Chilling Reign, you got the Galarian Birds, the legendary birds inside of that one, along with Snorlax, which is holding that one down fairly well. But then you go to Fusion Strike and Mew, realistically, Mew has been an okay character for the Pokemon TCG. It is an OG. But my question was, even when it came down to Fusion Strike, you're talking about Fusion Pokemon. Why isn't Mewtwo in that set? If you would have added Mewtwo to that set, I think you would have taken that set and probably doubled its viability inside Pokemon TCG, just because of the fact that he is a huge anchor Pokemon. And with it being a psychic set, not having him in there is just kind of a downside. The other downside I have the Fusion Strike that's going to be frustrating to a lot, especially people in the future, is just the overwhelming size of that set. With, 280 plus cards in that set with the secret rares? It's gigantic. And what happened is it causes the pull rates to go way out of whack because there's so many secret rares, rainbow rares. There's the alternate arts and all these other cards that are in the pull slot on the main slot, that it spreads out that pull rate so bad. And then you even look at the alternate art card pulls for like the alternate art Mew. I think it was the VMAX. It's still like higher than the Chunkachu on the pull rate. I think it's like 1 out of every 1,800 packs right now. So when I look at it going, I know people got to open these packs, but when you have to open that many packs to get the best pull card out of a set, one of the best pull cards out of the set, it's really going to make it more frustrating in purchasing it in the future for an investment wise. Do I think it will do well? Yeah, I think the Mew in general will make it do well, but personally, I think it won't perform as well as Chilling Reign and probably be pretty equivalent to Battle Styles, because Battle Styles has the same issue without the OG anchor Pokemon in it, and trying to run that set on Urshifu with Tyranitar and Empoleon as backup is another reason on that one. I think is going to be those two sets I think are going to be some of the worst ones in Sword and Shield, right along with Rebels Clash. I think Rebels Clash has got some good chase cards in it, but the only thing that's helping Rebels Clash is a lack of reprint on booster boxes. That's really keeping that one moving forward.
So I have a couple of follow-up questions with that. Actually, someone also made a point in the chat that I completely forgot about. Is there's also a Celebi alternate art in that, which that's also a beautiful card. Celebi is one of the other popular items for Fusion. But I guess my two kind of follow-up questions for that. One, I just want to make this statement. I 100% agree. I do think it was a missed opportunity for Mewtwo. That would also have probably added a ton more value. But the first question I have, obviously, Mew is on the box when we are talking about Lead Trainer boxes, so you're putting a lot of heavy emphasis on Mew not being one of the main characters that's able to kind of anchor. But wouldn't you, or I don't know if this is just me personally, but don't you think that Gengar itself and even the Espeon is going to hold any sort of weight, especially considering, you take into consideration that one of the most popular sets we have, Evolving Skies, right now is full of all these, EV cards, and being able to, open a lot of the product and pull all the EVs, and having that missing Espeon could hold some extra value on top of the fact that it's just an EV card that holds a lot of weight and strength. And then looking at obviously what we've seen in the past with kind of like the Gengar, obviously you can make an argument with, the silver card back during when we had the XY era set with Gengar in it. Do you think that in and of itself is kind of a little bit of a different situation? Or are you still kind of on the boat of, hey, I understand, like it's got the Gengar and everything, but I still feel like it's not going to perform as well? And then kind of lastly, my final question to kind of follow up with is, you say that the set obviously has a ton of cards that you can really pull in it. But some of the newest sets, whether it be Brilliant Star or Evolving Skies, and some of the other Sword and Shield era ones also have a ton of kind of pulls in them as well, or they're just absolutely massive sets. So do you think that specifically, that's an issue of Fusion because it doesn't have a ton of amazing pulls, or do you think it's just subject to the Sword and Shield era in and of itself? But I just kind of wanted to pick your brain on a lot of those questions.
I do, Fusion Strike is interesting because, like I said, it's a missed opportunity for Mew too. I think Mew is a good character and Gengar are a good character, but if you look back in even past sets, those characters always come with what I want to call an anchor Pokemon. The other thing is too is that Celebi alternate art is a beautiful card, and the Espeon, of course, with it being just after Evolving Skies, it's going to, in my opinion, be a downside to it, because with it being outside of Evolving Skies, would you rather go open Evolving Skies with a chance at all of those evolutions, or are you going to go open up Fusion Strike in hopes of hitting that one evolution inside of there that you want for your collection, or were you just going to wait for someone else to buy it who's looking for Mews and selling it? The other thing is too is that I don't know. I just personally, from what out of all the sets in the Pokemon TCG right now, in especially the Sword and Shield era, it's the least exciting set for myself. And I, that's part of maybe my bias towards that set is that, I love Vivid Voltage. Vivid Voltage, when it came out, was one of the funnest sets of the 2020 time frame, in my opinion. Then you went into, I actually didn't buy much in Chilling Rain at the time. I was one of them. I backed away from Chilling Rain because, I like the Galarian Birds and Snorlax. But I saw Evolving Skies coming, and I just hunkered down and saved all my money for Evolving Skies. So I tend to, whatever reason, my bias or my feelings seems to always draw me towards the sets that are popular, and Fusion Strike, for whatever reason, if, like I said, if it had a Mewtwo in there, it would have been great. Gengar, I love Gengar, but Gengar by himself was not a reason enough for me to rip open a set. If I'm going to go for Gengars, I'd probably be going for more of the OG Gengars than I would be the current one. I do love that alternate art of him being the world. I think that's an awesome artwork and awesome alternate art. I really wanted to pull that one. That was one of them I was hoping to get. But, and when it comes down to what I mean by so many cards, there are really 3 chase cards in the Fusion Strike set that people are really going after. SLB's kind of a 4th one, but realistically, you got the alternate art Gengar, you got the Espeon card, and you got the alternate art Mew. Those 3 are really the big ones that you're really going for, really looking for in that set. But there are, if I remember right, there are 30 plus secret rare, rainbow rares, and all that inside of that set. And when you are sitting there trying to pull a pack and you got a chance of pulling all of these other ones versus the ones that you're looking for, that really makes the pull rates extremely difficult to get the 3 that you're focusing on, or the 3 chase cards in that set, unless you are going for one of the other ones. Then you have good chances of doing that.
Okay, so I want to just try and reiterate what you're saying, because I think I understand fully the point that you're making, but I want to just try and just spit out basically everything that I heard. So obviously, when I was comparing it to some of the older sets, I was specifically talking about Phantom Forces. For those people that don't know, Phantom Forces was a set. It had a Silver Dialga in it, but it was a set that was predominantly based around Gengar. Of course, with that being said, during that era, the main pulls for that set was literally the Silver Dialga, and then there was a couple of Gengars, and as you've seen in the XY era, of course it's an older set, so take time with a grain of salt, but it has been the highest performing, if not one of the highest performing sets, right next to Flash Fire within XY era. So of course, now hopefully I'm hearing you correctly, but from what it sounds like you're saying is basically, sure, Gengar's a great card and all, but when you're comparing the fact of the matter that the sets, specifically, let's say in the XY era compared to Sword and Shield era, they're so much larger that the pull rates of you pulling that Gengar back in the XY era, or you pulling one of those main 4, sure, there's less great pull rates, but the sets were a lot smaller compared to now Sword and Shield. The sets are a lot bigger, and it's kind of like isolated to those, top 4, top 5 pulls, because of course, you could get the alternate art Mew, you could get the regular Mew instead of the VMAX variation, you could get the Rainbow, and all these other ones, but really you're isolating it down to 6, 7, maybe 8 cards at most. And so since it is such a large set compared to the amount of pulls you can get, that's what really hurts it the most. Versus Evolving Skies, don't get me wrong, Evolving Skies is a large set, and so it's going to be expensive and it's going to be a lot to collect. But at least with Evolving Skies, and it being such a large set, there's so many greater pulls, and so it's almost like a deficit to itself compared to some of these older XY sets with less pulls because the sets weren't so large. Hopefully that makes sense, and hopefully I'm reiterating everything you're saying correctly.
That was kind of my point. I mean, it's even the one chase card inside of Fusion Strike is the one evolution that you're going to be chasing inside of there. Is why personally I would go for Evolving Skies, where I got a chance to get 8 what is there, no, there's the original OGs are out there. I think there's 12 or I believe there's 12 evolutions you can pull out of there between the alternate arts and the VMAX alternate arts out of there, because they pulled the OG ones out and put them into the boxes on the side, so you lose 6 of them. So I think that's 10. So you have 10. You got a chance at 10 evolution alternate arts inside of there, plus the original VMAXs, plus the original Vs. So there's a lot of chances of pulling potentially some decent chase cards and the evolutions out of there compared to Fusion Strike, where you've just got 1. So the draw is going to go back to Fusion or Evolving Skies, like I think we've seen. I think that's why we keep seeing Evolving Skies even now pushing, is there's always that draw with all those chase cards inside of there. And granted, yeah, I mean, if that set gets more expensive, are you going to hedge your bets on the one that has 4 to 6 chase cards, or are you going to hedge your bets on the one that's got, 20 potential chase cards inside of it that you could hit inside of it with a smaller set?
Right, no, of course. And I feel like comparing it almost to Evolving just feels kind of like, it just feels like comparing comparing to a world champion to a rookie. So I guess let's compare it more now to kind of Chilling Reigns. What is it, and here's 2 questions to it. What is it exactly that you like so much more about Chilling Reigns, whether it be the artwork, the amount of pulls, and so on and so forth, compared to, and we obviously went over all the downsides of Fusion, so just tell us the positives of Chilling Reign in regards to the cards. And then my follow-up question with that as well is, do you think that there's any sort of merit to people wanting to collect the ETB / booster box designs for one over the other, if that's going to put any weight and emphasis on it? Because I know, I'm literally reading in the chat right now, people are saying that they feel as if some of the Chilling Reign ETB designs are kind of lazy, but obviously people really love the Mew designs. So I'm curious if that, do you personally think will hold any value in regards to ETB collecting? Obviously booster boxes are a little different, but then once again, following up with the first question on what you like about Chilling.
Yeah, and for ETBs, I would honestly buy the Fusion Strike ETBs over the Chilling Reign ones all day. The only difference I would say is that I do like the Chilling Reign PC versions, just because of the fact that they are automatically an error box on top of it. But if you do that, make sure that you keep the 2, like I've said in my side, get that 2-pack blister with it too. I think if you could get the 2-pack blister and the ATB, you're going to have a really good selling point with the error box to just kind of complete the story with that in the future. So you had to have like the storyline behind what they did in the repair. But overall, the Fusion Strike, either the PC or the original box, I love the artwork. I do love that Mew artwork on that ETB. I think that that's a fantastic display. It looks great on your shelf. It looks great in a collection or a shelf. The PC version, I do like that teal color a little bit better. That really makes Mew pop on that one, and that would make a huge centerpiece. So if you could get more of those Fusion Strike Pokemon Center ETBs, definitely a little bit better. The plus sides I see to Chilling Reign over Fusion Strike is that has more chase cards, that has the better, you got the OG Pokemon inside of it. Of course, like Moltres, they're the Galarian versions, but they're still, go back to myself, once again, my bias of being the original legendary birds. You hear Moltres, Articuno, and Zapdos inside of something, and it automatically has that draw to the older OG Pokemon collectors or players. And then on top of it, it does still have some really good alternate arts inside of that set that are just kind of forgotten. That people just don't see them or haven't been chasing them as much, just because, like you said, Evolving Skies came out right behind it, and everybody's focusing on Evolving Skies versus Chilling Reign. And I did the exact same thing because I'm more of an evolutions person than I am, a legendary birds person. I always used to have a Flareon deck just because I like Flareon, and I still collect Flareon stuff just because that's my OG Pokemon. He's even in our logo for that reason. So it's just one of them things. To me, my draw is more to Chilling Reign than it is the Fusion Strike, but I would definitely go with the Fusion Strike ETBs over the Chilling Reign ETBs, but I would go with the Chilling Reign booster boxes over the Fusion Strike booster boxes. That would probably be my 2 shifts.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think you make great arguments for both points, and it really does bring a good perspective to it when putting it into the limelight of kind of the difference between Chilling Reigns. Like, obviously, Mew and Gengar and Espeon and Celebi are kind of the main cards that you can pull, with the main focus on them being a lot more OG. But that's not to consider the fact matter. Hey, there's still a Blaziken in the set. Hey, there's still a Snorlax in the set, and it's really given that nostalgia still with the Glaring Birds. Obviously, some people like it, some people don't, but it still has a decent amount of cards to pull. So I can definitely understand the resonation with that over. And then, of course, like I said, going back to the argument you made, I do really like that Mew design as well for the PC ETB. And I think you bring up a good point, because even though the design itself is kind of sloppy with the, in my personal opinion, of course, sloppy with the original PC box for both the Chilling Reign Riders, it still is an error box, which will give it a premium, because people do love to collect error things at the end of the day. And like you said, coupling it with the kind of 2 packs to come along with it, with the 3 promos, is going to really add a little bit of a story and value to it. So I 100% agree with you on that. Now going forward, we're in the last kind of half an hour session of the stream. So for those people that are interested, we will now be taking questions. I'm going to mainly have Northwoods kind of answer the questions. If there are, some things that you guys kind of want us both to discuss back and forth, then we're going to then we can do that. But I really want to reserve it for him answering everything, considering I do tend to be the one that answers most of the questions on every Tuesday and Thursday stream. So we're going to make this a special day for him, since we're going to be able to pick his brain and get his perspective. So if you guys want to go through the chat and kind of ask some questions, and then I'll go through and scroll and kind of pick out some of the ones that I really see that people have asked recently. So here's the first question that I just saw as scrolling through. Justin Durr says, I've been buying a lot of high-end singles lately. What do you guys think about that? And I've been really considering the reverse rare chunk from Vivid rainbow rare, the rainbow rare chunk from Vivid and the Umbreon VMAX full art. But will the price drop? Kind of want to get your thoughts on that, Northwood.
So, I guess, Justin, it really depends on what your strategy is for your investing when it comes down to it. Anytime you start going into high-end singles, just remember that items become a little bit more difficult to sell when you get into that point, and there's always a risk, especially if it's modern, such as the Rainbow Chunkachu and the Umbreon VMAX, that they may still continue to do a little bit of a downward trend because more product may be opened yet. Granted, we shouldn't be seeing anything, but we're probably going to see some more of those Chunkachus come out if people open up these Vivid Voltage ETBs potentially. I don't think that market's going to change much. So if you're looking at a little bit longer hold on those product that are the Chunkachu, you'll probably be fine. It's going to be slow going at this point on the upward trend, kind of like we see with most singles, is that they do continually go up and they do continually move, slow movement, and usually a long-term hold if you're going to be doing that. As for the Umbreon VMAX, I would wait until we see, because I think Eli here and myself and a lot of our distributors are saying we're going to be seeing another Evolving Skies reprint come through. And when that happens and we get that hit by that, it's going to take that Umbreon again and probably push it back down. But it seems like that Umbreon seems to follow the trend of the booster box from what I've been watching. If you actually pull up the graphs and compare them, when we get a reprint, that Umbreon VMAX drops, and as the booster box itself goes up, so does the Umbreon VMAX follow it. For whatever reason, it seems to trend right with it. So I think that will continue. So when we get a reprint, we're going to see that drop, and then as that booster box goes up again, we'll see it go back up. So there might be, I would wait on that one at least until after at least the next reprint before jumping into it, because that is an at floor right now, and you've got some opportunity to wait that one out. Like I said, Rainbow Rare Chunkachu, definitely be watching that one. If it starts moving in the upward trajectory, I would start to jump on it, because that's going to be the low point. If it starts going up at this point, I don't think it's going to come back down. It's going to start to move pretty solidly up in that upward trajectory. And then, like I said, high-end singles, if you're in it for the long game, definitely go for the high-end singles, because they will consistently move up and they will consistently give you a gain every year. Just remember that the percentage of game is going to be a lot less than if we're actually in like we do now, using modern booster boxes and stuff and riding the reprint waves that we do to try and build up our our ability to purchase those items.
Think an hour for the 2 like.
Right on. So the next question that we have is from Sad Higeki. He says, and this is specifically for Northwoods, so awesome, love to hear it. Northwoods, what are your thoughts on Celebrations Collector's Chest at $25 to $30?
I think the collector's chests, Eli, tell me if I'm right or not. Those are $24.99, right? For the lunchbox collection tins. That's the MSRP. So yeah, I think that they're a great buy at that price. I mean, consistently when they disappear off the shelf, they go right back up to that 30, 35 almost instantly. Some of them push $40 on them right away on that Celebrations tin. That, and it's the only place that you can get those 3 promos that are inside of it, and they actually are fairly limited. From what I've seen, they're limited on print compared to like the Lance's Charizard, the Pikachu V Union, and that. There's quite a few less of those out there. So I think that the promos alone in there right now together as a group are like $450 right now. So you instantly got a little bit of value built into them tins on top of the Celebrations packs. So I think in general, any of these celebration items, if they're not going to be going back into print and we're not going to be seeing one more reprint out of them, are all going to be right now if you can get in them at that MSRP price. Especially as we get past the 1 year mark, just like Generations, we're definitely going to see items such as that box continue to go up pretty consistently and at a pretty good rate, at least for the first 2 or 3 years of them being out of print.
So one thing I do want to say to that, although I do agree with you, I think that's a great price because you're literally getting them at MSRP. There actually was a reprint for the tins around the same time they did a reprint for the Lance's Charizard and Sylveon boxes. I want to say they did this reprint about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. It might have, I mean, who knows, because obviously, as we're aware, when it comes to reprints, the Pokemon Company typically does large reprints for booster boxes, Elite Trainer boxes, because it's a lot easier, and these specialty tins are items that are a lot harder for them to print, but it definitely did have its, initial 3 waves along with the Lance's Charizard. So, but of course, with that being said, it could still have less product. But as far as it goes, I still agree with you on the 100% premise. It does has those specialty items, and I do think it could perform well long term. Next question we do have is Edwin says, how low do you guys think Brilliant Star booster boxes will drop? Obviously, we can just go into the premise of assuming that this is coming with a potential reprint in May, as discussed by myself and other Poketubers.
It's really going to depend on how high these booster boxes get before that next reprint. We know we got one coming in May for sure. When it comes to a reprint here on Brilliant Stars, if we can see, I'm just looking up right now because I don't know where they are today. Last time I looked, they were about $115 to $120 per booster box. I was just going to check real quick to see. Yeah, I mean, they've gone back up to about 130 right now. So if we're looking at about $130, I think that if we get another reprint here in May, depending on the size of the reprint, if it's a sizable reprint, we could see these come down close to $100 range. I would think pretty safely to say there. With the Chase Film Charizards inside of there, and with all the cards that are inside of there, it could be. I don't think we're going to see a subpar 100. I don't know if it'll go down that low unless it's a massive reprint. But otherwise, I would think that right around that 100, 105, kind of like we saw with Evolving Skies, is going to be a pretty safe number for the low point on these ETBs. But like I said, it was weird because when it got released, got 2 waves almost.
You mean the booster boxes?
So.
You mean the booster boxes?
Yeah,
you said ETBs.
That would affect it.
Oh, sorry, the booster boxes. Yeah, sorry. The booster boxes only go to about 100, 105, but the booster boxes got a double wave right off the beginning, didn't it? If I remember right. It was like we got hit with one, and then like a week later, there was the second wave hit. So that's why it really knocked that price all the way down, almost down to 115, 110. But I would think that the lowest that we'll see is around that 105 if it's a decent sized reprint in May.
Here's a follow-up question for you with that one. As far as it goes right now, we've only seen one reprint, or not even reprint. We've seen one wave of the ETB for Brilliant Star. I mean, there's got to be an expectation as far as it goes that there is a reprint. So I feel like asking you that question, if there is going to be one, is rhetorical. But do you think that, considering there hasn't really been any sort of an announcement in regards to the ETB reprints, do you think that also as well could be a potentially good investment? And then you can also make the same argument too on whether you think you like the PC ETBs better than the regulars, and comparing the prints from what we know from the original as well.
Personally, aesthetically, I like the store ETB better than the PC ETB when it comes down to Brilliant Stars. Because I've got. So this was the PC version of it. I actually had it sitting right here, and then this one is actually gold. It's got like gold inlay. It's like it doesn't have as much star factor, but when I saw the original prototype for it, I thought that the ETB from Pete, the Pokemon Center, was going to be more of that brilliant, really flashy gold type deal. And then I got it, and I was actually kind of disappointed in it from what we had been seeing with even, Celebrations and with, Fusion Strike, and even out of, the Evolving Skies one was okay. Once again, it was just a different variation of the 3 evolutions on the front of it. But I was expecting like that to be all gold inlay with the big star on it, and it was kind of a disappointment. So overall, I think the PC one's going to do better just because of the fact that it's Pokemon Center exclusive. I think that it'll just automatically do better, as silly as that sounds. But visually wise, I think that the store-bought ones are better. I am still seeing Brilliant Stars ETBs in the stores. They're actually still everywhere. So if they just did the one wave, it must have been a massive wave of ETBs, because our distributor, my distributor friend, says they still have them. I mean, they still have them there. So MJ Holding is still bringing them out too to Walmarts and Targets. Ours keep getting about 5 to 10 of them every week inside of them. So they're still consistently coming out into the stores. They're not like they're running out of stock. So when it comes down to a reprint, are we going to see one? I don't know. I guess it's going to depend on by May if we're going to see that get chewed up, or the distributors say that they're going to want it in that time period. And the question is then, is if we don't get one in May, will they do another one like we've been seeing with Darkness Ablaze, Vivid Voltage, and Sword and Shield base? Are we going to be seeing one almost 2 years down the road where we be getting another one because they're out and they want to do it again? So that's the real question I have when it comes to ETBs right now in Sword and Shield. When's the safe time to buy them? Because in Sun and Moon, it was always first release was the first ETB run, and they ran a massive ETB run, and when they were gone, they were gone. They never saw reprints. And now that's changed in Sword and Shield. We're now seeing reprints of these products well down the road from the original releases of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely agree. I think the artwork designs are a lot better for the original compared to the PC ETBs. I'll be interested to see if that's going to cause them to outperform the Pokemon Center ETBs, but also, to be fair as well, we don't really have a ton of analytical data to know what's going to happen with PC ETBs. On top of the fact of the matter too, if you are saying, okay, we look at the historical data with PC ETBs right now and we compare it and say to ourselves, okay, there hasn't been any reprints for any of them, and if we just keep going this way, you still got to wonder, with the current prices of the standard ETBs having only one wave, it almost makes me question if that will play a factor in it performing really well. Now, one thing I will make a statement on is obviously you're saying MJ Holdings and so on and so forth. All these places have been still coming out with ETBs. What's very interesting for myself is I usually get around a wave 1 and wave 2 total allocation for ETBs is around 90 to 100 booster or elite trainer boxes. And this time around, I got one wave and it was 50. So I literally got my full allocation cut in half. And then in regards to my distributor, they had a couple that they added on for people to purchase with a 1 box or a 1 case limitation, and it sold out in like 10 minutes. So the demand for there was extremely high at the time when it was on our distributor's page, and we haven't heard anything since. So I know that people are still clobbering to try and find them from the distributor side. So obviously retail's a little bit different. So I'll definitely be interested to see, because I do think there's a lot of distributors that are still trying to sell it, since you do tend to get a lot better margins than if you're selling the booster boxes. One question, another question we just got as well. So this is actually quite an interesting question. So your average player, and we'll go down to the next. So for those people asking questions, we'll go down to the next 5 to 10 minutes. Since I do gotta wrap it up really soon here, I do apologize. I wish we had more time, but I sadly have to leave pretty soon here. One thing I actually want to say, shout out to Derek, as always. Thanks for the $2 donation. He says, first donation to Northwoods OnlyFans charity. That's so funny.
He's never gonna die, is it?
No, dude. I mean, literally, when you when he was saying the plumber's butt comment on the last video, dude, people were.
I feel like I just need to make a fan only that's like plumber's crack C6 and like give it to Derek so he can join it.
Oh, that's
He
so.
use donations for that and just take like random pictures for people.
You know.
Stick it in there. Just find them on Google.
Hey, that's so funny, my guy. Shout out to Derek as always. But so the next question. The next question is your average player says, how would you suggest someone to invest in Pokemon if the country adds imports, shipping, and taxes upon the items, making it hard to buy at a low price? So I actually have a pretty good answer myself for that, but I want to hear what your thoughts are first.
So you cut out for 1 second. He just asked if it was how to reduce that cost on that.
He's asking, what would you suggest someone who invest in Pokemon cards if their country adds imports, shipping, and taxes upon the item, making it harder to buy at lower prices?
The best way that I've ever done it is just find a distributor friend, or find an LGS that's willing to work with you on that, of course. We're not trying to get them import fees. If you're looking at Japanese, when you are talking about import, typically what I try to do is get a group of people together. A bunch of us will go together and purchase some of them items to try and reduce that shipping fee, because it seems like if you get to a certain size, the shipping actually reduces based on the size of the packaging. If they send two, what we found is that they just send like 2 boxes over, it's actually about the same price as them sending 10. As weird as that sounds, but I'm guessing with customs and all the other stuff, it's probably something to do with that. As it goes for reduction in price, I mean, it's really just pick it up yourself. I mean, that reduces the shipping costs, of course, and get away from that. Honestly, the best sources I have when I go to sell, I've been trying to evade that 10% to 20% or 15% on some of them places, is to start selling on Craigslist and using side pickups or even shipping through there. There's some definite ways to avoid that kind of stuff and get away from them extra fees, because you're right, fees will just chew you up at the end of the day, especially when you're paying fees to get it in and fees to get it out. I want to hear what he's got some wisdom of the world.
So yeah, no, this is a great question. The only reason why I know this from firsthand experience is I do work with a lot of people that purchase large amounts of Pokemon product from me overseas. So typically what I've experienced is, I think that Northwoods brings up a great point. If you are someone that's trying to only buy a couple $100 worth, going in with a group of people and trying to get your shipping cost lower down, because the more you buy, then the better your margins typically going to be once you hit certain thresholds. One thing I will say when talking about from my firsthand experience with some people that I know that will buy, cases of product from me, specifically with booster boxes. One of the things we do like to do when shipping with him is and this is of course, all coming from where you're buying from. But I do most of my transactions outside of my website because the fees are so much more expensive. And then they'll typically actually cover the cost of shipping just through general negotiations, because, at the end of the day, if they're buying from me at a just general price of $105, $110 for a booster box, which I were to sell, in the States over here, for around the same exact price, if not $10 more, maybe $120, $125. But then you add on fees, you add on shipping costs, and you add on all these extra expenses. Then by him covering the cost of shipping, and then on top of that as well, by us doing it off-site, we're not only saving fees, but I myself am saving shipping costs. And for him, since he's buying it for me $50 cheaper than what it is if he were to go buy it in his country, let's say Norway, for example, he's typically able to buy them for around 140, 150. Instead, he's buying them for me for 105, 110. And so it gives him good margins even after he's paying all the shipping cost expenses, because he's buying them in such large quantities that he gets it down to about an extra $10 a booster box. So in his mind, he's like, all right, I'm buying these for 105, 110, aka add-on shipping, comes up to 115, 120, and then you start to talk about how he's going to be able to sell them on the flip side for like 160 plus, especially when I'm talking about Brilliant Star specifically. That's how much the prices were going for over there. Now, as far as it goes, I do not recommend this. But this is what I do have a lot of people typically do when you're shipping out versus shipping in. Those are two different things, but people that I know from the United States do typically a lot when negotiating is they like to go UPS rather than USPS, because you can fudge the numbers a little bit on custom sheets. I do not, I'm not saying I recommend against this, and obviously, there could be some ramifications, but I do know that a lot of people like to do that because, if you're buying several $1,000s worth of Pokemon goods versus you're saying you get it from friends and family, kind of like what you see with people buying and selling on PayPal, the transactions go a lot smoother. And then as far as when you're kind of creating the transactions offsite, I know that the two most popular ones I've seen is, cryptocurrencies, and then this other source called Wise as well. For those people that do like to purchase things overseas, Wise is a great one because it has way lower transaction fees than if you were to do PayPal, because the conversion rate on PayPal is so much more expensive. So that's kind of my 2 cents from just my own personal experience from people who have bought typically in bulk. It's going to be a lot more expensive if you're looking on site. So if I were you, I don't think it hurts to reach out to someone like myself or some other Pokemon websites and say, hey, would you guys give me a deal or try and work something out if I were to purchase this? Because for me personally, at least, I'm always willing to make a deal if it saves me money, and I don't see why someone wouldn't want to save money if they're able to help cover some of the shipping costs and fee costs by just going off site and doing it in a way that still covers both buyers. And so that's just kind of what I would say from my own personal experience. But let's see, do we have any couple more questions before we wrap things up? Just want to make sure. All right, here we go. Digi Smithy says, at TCG Northwood as well as Pokemart USA, for lower end collectors, what should the percentage of investing in cards versus sealed products should be, especially considering the logistic space between the two? I think that's a great question, and I'll have you go first. And then I want to see, are there any other questions? I think that'll be your last question, just because I got to get going here. But
all right. To be honest with you, it's kind of up to you when it comes down to the percentage wise. Right now, I'm running probably 90% of my investments right now are sealed. And that's, once again, when you go into the singles market, if you are in the modern and it's a new set, you have an opportunity to get stuff pre-release. You can make some money on the singles potentially on the early sales, but as we see on most sets in the first probably 2 to 3 weeks, they pretty much just start dumping out and really dropping fast. And then in singles in general, it's a long-term hold. And where I'm at currently when it comes down to investing is that I really don't want to be doing long-term holds right now. I want to keep it within a year or two, just because I am trying to turn and burn and build and trying to get to the point where I feel more secure with purchasing those long-term holds, such as singles, such as graded cards, some of the older products and things like that. So personally, I'm shooting right now probably about 90% into the sealed, and it's usually right now out of that 90%, 80 to 85 of it's in the modern, usually running the waves, and of course the current market's up and down, just trying to, let's just be honest, I'm trying to do flipping right now just to build up an account that I can actually be able to do some more of the long-term things that I want to do in the future here when it comes down to the investing and collecting part of it.
Yeah, and honestly, I would say my percentages are around the same, if not even less. It's funny because I was thinking about a lot of the value of my cards, and although I do have, I want to say at least around $3,000 to $5,000 worth of value in my cards, when really thinking about how much money I have in a lot of my sealed, I would say it vastly outweighs it, personally, when you're looking at it from a percentage perspective, because I do have a decent amount of money in overall sealed compared to cards. And you know, personally, it really just comes down to you know, for myself, of course, I do think that sealed is a lot safer of an investment. And when I do typically own cards, and I look at it less from an investment perspective, and I look at it more from a collecting perspective. You know, if I do, and I've talked about this many times on my channel before, I have my kind of 3-wave system. If we're talking about when, you know, Pokemon product comes out in 3 waves. Wave 1, if, you know, I have a bunch of product that I basically have unsold, so let's say about a case or 2 of product, that'll be the time for me to basically purchase the product just to open, because I'm going to get the best premium, of course, depending upon the price I opened it at. But if I'm getting it at wholesale, that's when I'll open it, because the premiums for day 1 or the day before are going to be your highest when you're selling on like TCG Player, eBay, so on and so forth. And then as far as it goes, wave 2 for myself, any of the product that I've kind of held on to after the dip, that's usually when I do look to, right before wave 2 happens, sell. And then I kind of like to look at potentially holding on to product by wave 2 or 3. And then kind of course, we don't know how long wave 3 will come out because it's different per sets. But once it does hit that official wave 3 time, that's when I start to wait for talking about ultramodern investing, or just specifically picking up cards for my own personal collection, because I do like the master set. But it isn't really until that wave 3 where I say to myself, hey, this is really worth it for me, because I know it's gone through wave 1, it's gone through wave 2. All right, it's finally wave 3. This is going to be more than likely your biggest opportunity to get in at a lot cheaper of a price. Just because it's had multiple waves of reprints. And as you guys are aware, when it comes to, you know, just general value of items, obviously cards are inflationary because of the reprints. Now, if we're talking about older items, in regards to non-ultramodern product, I mean, I would generally say still going with sealed, because it is going to have a lot better return. But I am really following the SM Pratt model, where it's older, mint, or rare, or better, when looking at a lot of the cards. Percentage wise, those are going to be the ones that are going to perform the strongest, typically 10s. Maybe it's just me a prima donna about it, but a lot of the charts I've seen, it's very, very, you know, case by case in regards to seeing cards that are going to be 9s or raw that are going to perform, you know, not as good, especially considering with the raw market, there's such a, you know, speculation in regards to what's near mint, what's mint, so on and so forth. I usually take my kind of investing in waves in regards to singles, compared to looking at more of a long-term approach in regards to sealed product. But one thing I do want to say before we finally wrap up, but it says, should we sell the farm to invest in Pokemon Go TCG? You know, so I definitely don't sell the farm, man. This should be a hobby first and foremost, and then of course investing in the end. But is there anything you want to say real quickly? We got to wrap it up in the next minute, so I'll try and keep it short if you can.
Yeah, I was reading that too, and I just kind of snickered, because that, to me, that the Pokemon Go TCG, I'm not too particularly fond about that. I've seen some of the artwork cards, and I'm hoping that was just someone goofing, trying to make it funny, and that were actual pre-release cards that they were showing, because if it is, that set is really gonna bomb.
Yeah, I'm so nervous about that set, dude. Like, not even like, yeah, I'm holding my reserves.
Screenshots from Pokemon Go and put them on the ones I saw were like screenshots, and they stuck them on the card. It's like, really? That's what they did. It's gonna be just disastrous. So,
but well, right on.
Go, so.
Yeah, I gotta go. So sorry about cutting it short, guys. But as far as it goes, I just wanted to give a big thank you to Northwoods TCG for coming on. I really appreciate you for being able to take the time out of your way to come on for our Thursday. Wish it could have gone for a lot longer, but obviously we did have a couple of errors. I want to, of course, thank everyone as well for coming into the chat. We're going to try and do this as our regular Thursday segment in regards to having guests on. But, of course, you can find him on Northwoods TCG. I'll make sure to leave the link down in the description below. But, yeah, as far as it goes, thank you once again, brother. Sorry to cut it short, but that is all we have for today's video. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Until then, I will see you guys all on Friday. Peace.
You guys, thank you very much, and we will see you next time. Hopefully we'll catch you on Northwoods or another discussion someplace. It seems like we've been running into each other again a lot. So
yeah, seriously, bro.
We'll see you